Cooley family reunion. Of course, if you were in New Salem, every other road in New Salem is Cooleyville Road. They meander back and forth across 202, etc.
We take over.
First of all, we talk about this gold award today. Representative Goby and I have the great honor to go to countless Boy Scout, Eagle Scout awards. It's very rare that the young ladies stay with this program to get to the gold award. That's what makes this a very, very special award. Number one. Number two is something that, as stewards of the Quabbin Reservation, Ware River Watershed, and the Wachusett Watershed, for many, many years, I've always had a visceral feeling with the sacrifices that were made. And one of the things that stays with me is who will tell the stories. Those of you who grew up here as little kids, we know the passage of time will erase perhaps all of us because of mortality. Who will tell the story? And thanks to you, the story will be told. That is very, very important. I rode my bicycle out here about, Audrey is now 20, probably when she was 10. We rode a bicycle out. In my opinion, the most profound book about the sacrifices of Quabbin is a book called Someday by a lady from Westfield named Jackie French Holland. It's a short read. You can read it in about 2.5 hours, a little less than 300 pages, about a 7th grade girl in her last year of this town, of the town of Enfield, the next couple towns over. She lived in a house with her mother, who was a widow, and her grandmother, who was a widow. And the woodpeckers came, and they tore down all the buildings, and they dug up all the cemeteries, including her father and her grandfather. They had to go back to the cemetery and stand at the cemetery when both their father and grandfather were dug up and brought over to Route 9 to the Quabbin Park Cemetery. And every time they wanted to know, where are we going to move to, Graham? Are we going to move to Warren, Athol, Chicago? And Graham would always say, I don't know. I'm going to think about it someday. Hence the title of this book. So finally they came to that house. They came to that house. The auctioneers came and they sold everything. And they went down in the barn and they found an old sleigh. They found an old sleigh and they took it out of the barn. It was all covered with gray, dust, cobwebs, and everything else. Graham was sitting on the porch while they were auctioning it off. It went for $20. And the little girl went up to the porch to see how Graham was doing. The story was that on a winter night, maybe riding on a road like this, under a clear sky, on the snow, Grandpa had proposed marriage to Grandma. And the little girl went up to the porch and to see how Grandma was doing with the sale of that sleigh. And Grandma was in her rocking chair, and she died. And I sat under that tree, right over there with my daughter, reading that story, and the tears were running down my face. My daughter put her arm on my shoulder and said, Dad, I was only the senator. Dad, it'll be okay. So what do we learn from that lesson, my friends? Well, Fred Lasky is the executive director of the Mass Water Resources Authority. They're the commander-in-chief, quite honestly. With some very good help from the Quabbin Advisory Council and Tom Burby. When Fred went on his vacation to Maine last summer, I gave him a copy of this book. So the people in Boston would learn the lessons about the sacrifices of the people that are here. And I got a postcard from Fred. He read this book because I wanted him to take the sacrifices of the people who lived and loved on this land, who went off to World War I, and they got a knock on the door when they came back from France. They were war veterans. And they said, you're out of here, and we're digging Granny up in the cemetery, and she's out of here too. Think about that. Who will tell those stories? Thanks to you, these stories will be told. Ian Goby and I make sure the bottom of our visceral being, that the people in Boston will not take away your right to recreate in an environmentally sound area. For fishing, for recreating in this area for eternity. There's 58,000 acres in the Quabbin watershed area. The people like you, Earl Cooley, gave up too much. You gave up too much so that people in Boston, 2.4 million people, would be able to have the most pristine and best drinking water supply on the planet. Don't get me going. On behalf of the Massachusetts Senate, be it known the Massachusetts Senate hereby extends its congratulations to Kayley Clark in recognition of your outstanding achievement in attaining the highest achievement in Girl Scouts, the Gold Award. Be it further known the Massachusetts Senate extends best wishes for continued success, that this citation be duly signed by the President of the Senate and a copy and attested to by the Clerk of the Senate, signed by the first woman Senate President in the history of Massachusetts, and myself, Stephen M. Brewer, on this day. A fine effort, my friend. You honor your grandfather's legacy. You honor the name of the Cooleys for what you have done. God bless you, honey. Here.
Be careful opening that. I won't make it cry, Kayley. He's like that, huh? Thank you very much, and I've enjoyed having a chance to talk with some of you. And Mr. Betts told me about where he grew up, and it's so neat to hear all these stories. And and I think if you kind of remember back when you were kids, and the kids that are here, did you always think about it would be great to be able to go into the woods and find buried treasure or something, to discover something? And that's kind of what you've done, Kayley, by putting up all these markers. You brought up these treasures that have been kind of hidden in the past that people didn't know were there. And so that, the people that are going to come through here, not just today, but the scores of people that will come down, and you have brought them something that otherwise they would not have. And Steve and I were both history teachers, and anyone else who who loves history, and if you know how important it is, that preservation and conservation of our past, so we really do have an opportunity to understand what's going on now and to really appreciate the future. So you've done all that. And it's also a big day for Kayley too. The Gold Award is a huge, huge thing, and Steve's exactly right. We get an opportunity to go to a number of Eagle Scout ceremonies, but very few. I think I've only attended 2 or 3 Gold Award ceremonies, so I'm really happy because you look at those, every one of those badges and the pins that's on Kayley's sash. They don't just give them out. I mean, she's had to earn every single one of those. That shows an awful lot of hard work, and I think it only takes a minute to look around here and realize that anyone who could do this and to work with DCR and Cliff and the other folks that helped you out, this is somebody that's driven, that wants to do something and understands how important her own family history is to her, and to be able to share that with everybody else. And so I'm glad that you invited me to kind of share that as well today. And I love the invite that you sent us. Felt work in attaining the Girl Scouts Gold Award by helping to preserve the memory of the residents of Dana who sacrificed so much.
What to say now.
You want the senator to go back up?
Great job, Kayley.
That's all right. We'll get you out of it. We'll have
Good job.